Hello everyone and welcome to another WitchWood card review. Today I'm going to be looking at 6 cards. There's some pretty cool cards, some pretty bad cards, so I'll get straight into it. So I'm going to kick things off today by talking about a legendary warrior card. This is called Black Howl Gunspire. It costs 7 mana, has 3 attack and 8 health, and it has an interesting concept which I quite like, but I still don't think it's a very strong card. So the concept is it can't attack, so you just play it onto the board. And whenever this minion takes damage, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. So this is a very slow card because it doesn't do anything when you play it onto the board. Nothing will happen, but you do need to combo it with other warrior class cards which can actually do some good things here. So there are lots of ways to deal damage to your own minions with warrior. You can do Ravaging Ghoul, you could use Whirlwind, for example, you could use Blood Razor. And if you use 2 of them, then you're doing 2 damage to the enemy minions plus 6 damage from this, but randomly 3 each. So the problem with it is that the stats are quite small, so it doesn't have Taunt. If it had Taunt, I think it would be a lot better because your opponent then has to fire into it, and you'll get 3 damage off for sure. But if you just play it on its own, your opponent can just ignore it. And because it's random, you don't have any control over it. So it could actually work out that you get 2-3 damages off with this card, and they both hit your opponent's face. They've got plenty of health. It doesn't affect the board at all, and then they can just capitalize on that situation. So it's not. I don't like this card. It's unfortunately not a very good card to play. For 7 mana is very expensive. Just to get maybe 2, 3. Or even 4 if you're lucky, lots of 3 damage off to your opponent. So not a great card. I mean, Ragnaros was an 8 mana card. Granted, it was one of the best cards in the game, but that had 8 attack and 8 health, and it would guarantee you a random 8 damage to an enemy minion. Whereas this, if it does just 3 damage, it might not kill your enemy minions either. So not one that's a great card. It will probably find a place in a deck that wants to deal damage to your own minions, like do lots of enrage minions, and also like put Rotface in there, for example. But it's not a very reliable board control card or board clear card, so I'm not quite sure what sort of place it will take in the game. Next up, we have what I would call a proper legendary. Maybe a little bit too good, this one. This one's called Lady in White, and it is a priest-only legendary. It costs 6 mana, has 5 attack and 5 health, so we've seen that stat line before, but the battle cry is an extremely strong battle cry. So what it does is it casts Inner Fire on every minion in your deck, and what Inner Fire does is it makes their attack equal their health. So if you've got a lot of high health minions in your deck, and of which there are many in Hearthstone, and a lot that are playable by Priest at the moment, their attack will then be equal to their health. So Sleepy Dragon, for example, suddenly becomes a 12/12 with Taunt. You've got Primordial Drake becomes an 8/8 with the deal 2 damage and Taunt. You've also got Obsidian Statue. You've got cards like Nausea Cleric would be one that would suddenly become a 3/3 for 1 mana. Now this is a very slow card, so you cast it onto the board. The stats aren't terrible for 6 mana, but you do play it onto the board, and it only affects cards in your deck, so you do then have to draw them later on. But Priest is the perfect class for this, so it's a class that can play a little bit slower, they can control the game a little bit more, and then really it's not something that when you play this game you're going to win the game, but what it does is it just really makes the rest of your deck really strong. There are certain cards that you wouldn't want to put in this deck that have really, really low attack and really high health. Ones that are just kind of pointless to play on their own, because the one issue here is that it is a legendary card. You can only have 1 copy of it in your deck, so you're not always guaranteed to draw it, and you're not always guaranteed to draw it early. If you draw it too late, you may not have any minions in your deck to buff. So there are some downsides to it, but I would see this going into a lot of Priest decks because, I mean, why not? If you've got a couple of, like if you've got your Sarah in your deck already, just even if it buffs your Sarah to a 12/12 from a 12/4, it's worth playing for 6 mana. So I quite like this card. It's going to create some really cool decks and lots of interesting cards which weren't very good before you could possibly make work. Next is a new echo spell for Paladin. It's called Sound the Bells. So like I said, it's got echo, it costs 2 mana. It gives a minion +1/+2. Now this spell was already in the game and it only cost 1 mana. So paying it for 2 mana doesn't seem very good. If you play 2 of these, you'll get 2 attack of 4 health, which isn't as good as Blessing of Kings, which is 4 attack of 4 health for 4 mana. And then if you keep going up, it doesn't really gain you much more value. There are other Paladin spells in the game that you can use which you'll get more value from. The difference with Sound the Bells is that because it is echo, you can use it more flexibly. So you don't have to put it on 1 minion. You could put it on 2 and you could make more efficient trades that way. It's also a really good card to work with the Paladin quest. So that is something that we can see. It will help you complete the quest quicker. But it doesn't seem like a particularly well valued card and not one that I think is very great, to be honest. The card also works well with Linessa Sunsorrow. I don't know whether this has been confirmed yet, but I'm pretty sure if you manage to use the card, so if you use the echo effect 5 times, for example, I'm pretty sure that means that it will go 5 times onto Linessa as well, which is great. Unfortunately, the Quest Paladin deck just isn't really that good, and also Linessa, although quite a cool concept, didn't really see a lot of play because it's very easy for your opponent just to silence it or Siphon Soul it, for example. But having said that, it is another tool for that deck and one that I'm looking forward to try. Next we have another Echo card. This time it's for Rogue. Again, it costs 2 mana. It's called Cheap Shot and it has the effect of dealing 2 damage to a minion. Now this card doesn't look very good. Again, with a lot of the Echo cards, they're not making them completely overpowered, but this one, deal 2 damage to a minion. You can already do that with Rogue in a number of better ways. Backstab, for example, is 0 mana. But the fact that it has Echo does give it a lot of possibilities in the Rogue class. So being able to use it multiple times is excellent in a Miracle Rogue, for example, if you use it with your Gadgets and Auctioneer. It also, because every time you play it, it counts as a spell and it will draw another card. So that is one instance where it worked very well. It's pretty solid board removal. Being able to use it 5 times means you can do 10 damage to your opponent's minions, which can be quite good. And also, if you combine this with Blood Mage Thalnos, for example, then it becomes 3 damage with the extra spell damage that you can get from that. So it's not a bad card. I think it's a reasonably good one that only really works in Rogue, so it's good that they've put it in that one. Miracle Rogue isn't that great at the moment though, so interesting to see how this one plays out in the new rotation. Next we have another Rogue card. This one is a rare. It's called Cursed Castaway. It costs 6 mana, 5 attack and 3 health, and it's a pirate. Now I don't really like this card. It does have the effect of Rush, Death Rattle. It also has draw a combo card from your deck. So being able to draw a combo card from your deck is really good because Rogue has some really good combo cards. That's probably some of their best cards, like Elven Minstrel is really good if you're needing that extra card draw and tempo. So it does have a good effect. The problem is it costs 6 mana. It's only got 5 attack and 3 health. So ultimately it's pretty much always going to die the turn you use it. You're just going to trade it into your opponent. So it's kind of pay 6 mana, deal 5 damage, draw a card from your deck. Now, if you haven't got any combo cards in your deck, then of course it won't work. But the fact that it is a combo card tag probably is better than just draw any card, because combo cards are often ones that are really good and ones that you're looking for as a Rogue. So the card's okay. I don't think it's a very good one though. It's not one that any Rogue players are really going to be excited about. It may be good if we see some really powerful combo cards announced in the rest of the Rogue set. So maybe it's kind of like the Kingsbane Shiny Cavern Finder, where it pulls out the Kingsbane. Maybe there'll be a really strong combo card that you're always looking for, and this helps you get it. But as it is with the cards we know about now, not a very good one, unfortunately. So the final card I'm going to show today is called Camellias. I really like this card. I like the card art and I like the effect. It's 1 mana, 1/1. It's a beast and it has the effect of each turn it's in your hand, it transforms into a card your opponent is holding. So this is a really, really interesting card. We've seen the mechanic before and it was never really that good. So Shapeshifter Xeris, for example, was terrible. There's also the Mage Shifting Scroll in Mage, which just randomly changes which you know, it can be good and it can be bad. The problem is it changes every turn, so it's very difficult to plan when to use it because the mana cost changes, the effect changes. So it's kind of so much randomness that it's very difficult to put into a constructed deck. This card, however, is does have a lot of randomness to it. However, it's got a couple of really good things going for it. One is if you have this in your opening hand and each turn it's telling you what cards are in your opponent's hand, then you will eventually know what cards your opponent is holding, and that is a huge advantage. That is something really, really strong that you could use to your advantage. The other thing is, if your opponent's holding the card in their hand, often it will be a good one that they're waiting to play, so you might be able to discover that and play it yourself. This does contain a lot of randomness, so I'm not sure how playable it will be, but just the interesting fact about being able to know what's in your opponent's hand, and you're not going to be able to know every card, but it's going to give you some interesting information that can really help you in games. So, I mean, at the start of the game, if you've got this in your hand and it instantly turns into a flame strike, well then that is a huge advantage for you to know that by the time it gets to turn 6, you don't want to be playing too many minions because he's got a flame strike in his hand. So there's really, really cool concept, something which I think fits well into Priest, and I definitely look forward to playing with it. Whether or not it'll be something that's strong enough to put in your deck, we'll see. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow with another video when the new cards come out, so I'll see you then.